The real deal, New England feel.
I went off the rails. I might go down and be ashamed of myself.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
Corso and Catone.
Welcome into Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England feel. I'm Corso. There is Catone right over there. Joe's with us in the booth. If they can't see you, they're listening.
They know Joe's they know Joe's in the background. They know he's there.
I'm talking about you.
Oh, me. I'm always, and of course they can see me.
He's right over there, And like I said, Joe's with us in the booth. You are watching us on YouTube. And when you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Give us that like, that thumbs up. That's what we care about. That's what we would like and appreciate. And check out our shorts and short reels and leave us a comment. We will read it on the air. Even if it's not flattering, we'll still read it. Why not? I hope it is from Mark, Send all kind of nasty messages to Mark. Make sure you
we like those.
and if you're listening to us, you're doing it on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, 790 The Score. And give us a call and heated hotline, 855-313-PATS, P-A-T-S. It's a message line. Leave a message 24/7. Or you can email us in our mailbag, corso.catone@gmail.com. Not too many topics tonight, but we got a lot to talk about in Weekly Rewind. We're going to go back, talk about Diggs, talk about Patriots, talk about OTAs. So make sure you're sticking around for that. And, of course, Yankees versus Red Sox. The drama continues in Boston. But we got some nice things to say about New York. Not so much about Boone. I'm a little irritated with him. So we'll talk about that.
You're always irritated with him.
Okay, because you weren't during that game?
Listen.
In L.A.? Okay. We'll talk about that. Stick around. And, of course, B's and C's. We're going to talk Bruins coach just a little bit. And, hey, you want to see Giannis come here? We're going to discuss that, B's and C's. So stick around. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hey.
I'm tired.
Well, what are you getting up? What are you up at, like 4:30 to go to practice?
I got this giant thing of coffee, iced coffee that I'm drinking.
And you don't drink ice. Well, listen, the only problem with that, Joe, is ask him how many sugars he put in that big thing.
So you're drinking sugar water with a coffee flavor.
No, but you gotta ask him how many.
I don't even know. I just take the big container and I just pour it.
Joe, we're at the casino one day and he says, "Get me an iced coffee." I says, "How do you want it?" He says, "Well, milk and sugar." I said, "Well, how many sugars?" He said, "I don't know, just tip it like this until you think there's enough in the thing." And I said, first of all, this isn't 1960. They're packets. You don't tip anything. Like, what are you talking about? Like the old sugar shakers in the 60s, right? I said, what are you talking about?
The big container that just says sugar on it.
I said, they're going to give you packets. He said, just keep throwing them in.
I don't like the taste of coffee. So I got to, make it taste like coffee milk, which only happens over there. Coffee and milk. Don't get that anywhere else. Right. We got a lot to talk about. So we got to get to things now. Talking about coffee and all this other crap. And I'm doing it for a purpose. I'm trying to wake up and all that.
Good. For the fans.
For the fans.
For the fans.
Right. All for the fans, fanalists. So, want to talk about the Patriots a little bit, guys?
Yeah, listen, we got to do it, yeah.
We haven't done that in Corso and Catone in a while. We haven't talked Patriots in a bit.
No, we haven't. We've been doing it more on Pat's Nation, but we got to talk about it for,
All right. Well, let's do it in a weekly rewind, Joe. I'm getting it. Going back through the week. About a weekly rewind. Okay, guys. They had OTAs. They're continuing with their OTAs this past week, but the Stefon Diggs, that story has not died.
Can we watch? Can we watch the video again?
I think Mark. You just.
Oh,
you just have that on.
No. There's a new video that has come out with Cardi B.
Who the hell is Cardi B?
He's one of those female rappers. But Joe,
Cardi's furniture.
No, he's slapping her on the booty, right? She's shaking it, and he's slapping it on the video. Joe.
Why did I get that video?
I don't know, Joe.
This is nuts. Doesn't sound like family viewing. Oh,
wow.
Well, all right. So make sure you get that video to Joe so we can play that on the show a little bit. I'm sure you have it.
I might.
Okay. So we're talking about Stefon Diggs and the week that was, and we saw the video, all that stuff happened. So now he shows up to camp, and you and I said
Well, you brought up, Chris, a real good point last week before anybody else did. You said, Mark, I don't think they give a shit about that video. He's pissed off because he didn't show up. No one has seen him at camp. Not like he's been miraculously not there. Not even just for OTAs, but other things. He hasn't been there. So you said that's why Vrabel's pissed, Mark. Listen to his comments. And you were right, I think, Chris. Absolutely.
Yeah, I do. I think that's what he was pissed off about. And, so there was talk. So to bring it back, okay, we got a few audio clips we want to play just to get the story out. Where was he on the block? Was he on the pan to get released and all this? And we heard from Burt Breer of Sports Illustrated, Scott Zolak, and Tom Curran, 98.5. Let's hear it, Joe.
We might have a little. What, we got technical difficulties?
Maybe. Well,
Maybe.
while
All
he's
right.
getting
that
ready.
Yeah.
Talking about whether or not he was going to get released. Okay. And so the issue became, okay, well, Scott Zolak had heard, well, there's other things. It isn't just the video on the boat and isn't all that stuff. There's other things involved. He really committed and all that. And that's what we talked about last week. I don't really think they care about what went on the boat.
Mm-mm.
And it was the fact that he wasn't there. That's what pissed Vrabel off, I think. I mean, if he had been there after Memorial Day when that all happened and he showed up for OTAs, I think you would have heard a different tone coming out of Vrabel, which would have been basically, hey, look, we're aware of it. We've talked to Stefon. He's here in camp, and that would have been it. But because he wasn't there. But then he shows up. And so do you think it was ever on the table to cut him, to release him?
I don't know if it was on the table to release him, Chris, but I do probably think Vrabel probably pretty sternly said to him, listen, if you're going to be part of this team, there's certain things that I expect. Didn't say he was going to, not mentioning the fact I'll cut you, but just things I expect. And things he expects is being present, being with your teammates. And I believe he probably reiterated that to him, that this is what I expect of all the guys.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think the conversation revolved, with debating on cutting you, but I think Vrabel probably told him, hey, this is what I expect from everybody.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's, there was a lot of speculation. Well, yeah, right. What did Vrabel say to him? Was it, hey, look, that's a black guy. It's a bad look. We can't have that, or you need to be here. Because when you're not here, some people say, well, maybe he told him to stay away. I don't think he told him to stay. I'd be surprised if that would be the case.
Yeah, I don't think that
he's a hit it head on kind of guy, So then, okay.
Vrabel in all his press conferences, like everything he's talked about, I know he's talked about, being a good teammate and he's talked about, culture and all that stuff. But he's also talked about, Chris, that guys being present and doing and basically almost using the Belichick line of doing your job, knowing what's expected of you and all this stuff. So the fact that you're not there, none of that is true for you. So that had to have pissed him off.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and so, okay. So is showing up, was showing up what saved him?
When you say save, Chris, do you mean saved him from being cut?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if he was going to get cut, Chris, but I think it definitely saved him from, hey, one more mistake and maybe you'll get cut. Like, I think it kept him out of the doghouse. I think told him the expectation and he showed up. It's like, hey, I'm here, right? Yeah, I'm here.
Well, we heard from Adam Schefter and we had a little trouble with the Burt Breer one, but that's basically what they had said. They had talked about, Zolak had said there was some other issues, and then Tom Curran, 98.5 said, no, he is not on the table to get cut, released, or anything like that.
But you said that immediately, Chris. You said they're not cutting this guy. If he was worth $30 million, though, you said that'd be a different story. If he had a Metcalf contract, you said that might have been a different story.
Well, was it the fact that he showed up? This is what Adam Schefter of ESPN had to say. Yeah, we're not hearing it. So, okay.
We're not hearing it.
Okay. What I think, Mark, is
showing up today felt about as mandatory as it could be after, of course, the viral video over the last several days of Stefon Diggs on a boat with many women, including Cardi B, including an envelope with some pink stuff that I don't have any idea what that is, and you would hope that he doesn't either, but that's a whole different conversation for a whole different day. Mike Vrabel addressed this last week, saying he was aware of the viral video. He talks to the players every day, but yeah, they want the players to make sound decisions. Him showing up, him getting in line, him expressing what, of course, he needed to express to the team, right to their faces, was all a very good thing. Now, my understanding is the team does not plan to cut Stefon Diggs. He's a very good player. They intend to pay him a lot of money. They haven't yet. They intend to pay him a lot of money, especially after he passed the physical from his ACL recovery. It does seem to be on track. This is a player they want to keep, want to be making plays for them. That's why they signed him in free agency to such fanfare. Just got to be better, and this was a step in the right direction for Diggs, and certainly something the Patriots welcomed.
That was Adam Schefter of ESPN. It didn't sound really like him, did it? It sounds like his voice was high. It sounded like he was on the boat with the, shaking the whole woohoo, yeah. He's referring to that video you were just talking about, I think,
I told you, yes.
Yeah, he's so.
I can't get that one for Joe because Joe will never
so
turn it off.
He's so excited about this video, isn't he?
If I got that video of Cardi B, Joe would never turn it off. It'd be running the whole show.
That's it.
So that's confirmed. Listen, you didn't need Schefter. You didn't need Brer. You didn't need Zolak, Curran. You didn't need anybody. All you needed was to watch us last week. And all you needed to hear was, they're not cutting this guy. I don't care what kind of substance was in that bag. They weren't cutting him.
So, Chris, Schefter makes it seem like almost like Diggs addressed the team? Is that what he insinuated?
Yeah, kind of. It sounds like he may have said some things to the players and so on, but which is great. Fine. Wonderful.
Yeah.
They don't care either. Like, look, it's
not the players don't give a shit.
The people, what you people have to understand out there, and you hear it all over the radio, it's daily shows they're dealing with and all that, is the bad look, and how does that going to be for Polk and Baker and these guys? Well, they're going to cut anyway. But other these guys that are young guys, how does that play out? The example, Mark. These guys, they're not looking to Stefon Diggs to show them how to be people. Like they're doing their job. They're doing what they're supposed to do. They got their own brands. They got their own boats where they're doing their own stupid things on their own boats. I mean, this is not going to make Polk go out and say, yeah, well, hey, green light now. Let's everybody sell drugs. Like, I mean.
Why? We don't even know what was on the boat.
The coffee is kicking in.
There we go.
There we go. No, but I think, just be smart about it. Like, you don't got to video it. I mean, you can do whatever you want to do on your boat. Just don't stop videoing stuff and, putting it out there on social media. And the other thing, Chris, is several people made it a point to say this week, and you were the first one who said it on our show last week, that the NFL's policy has changed so much, their discipline policy towards, even if you're caught with some sort of recreational drug, like, that doesn't pop you anymore in the NFL. Like, that's not in the CBA anymore. Like, it's different now. So even that video, maybe 8 years ago, would have been a big deal. Like, they would have opened up an investigation and he would have been suspended. The league don't even care about that anymore, Chris. It wasn't even an issue with the league. And you highlighted that last week. You said, Mark, the league that could give a shit about that. They don't care about that anymore.
No, they want to rehabilitate. They would get them help or whatever the hell they got to do. Yeah, I'm with you. But here's the thing. Here's the question, though. And the last point we'll make, I want to hear from Mike Florio, NBC Sports, on the contract situation, because I'm wondering if he didn't have, like, so the Patriots put a lot of outs. They did a smart contract by them, and there was a lot of outs in there. He has to pass a physical from the Patriots doctor. The Patriots doctor has got to say you're clear to go on your knee. Then we'll pay you.
Okay. Oh.
And when we heard from Schefter, you heard it in that clip. He said they're going to pay him a lot of money at some point soon.
At some point soon.
It didn't happen yet.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if Diggs just came to camp and he did all of this because he ain't got paid yet. I think maybe only $4 million. But this is what Florio had to say.
Don't
don't believe they can just say, we're ripping up the contract, you haven't passed the physical yet. But the way the contract's written, it's within the full and complete discretion of the doctor who is employed by the Patriots to decide whether or not his knee is good to go. And the way you can just see the language, it was specifically put in there so they can use that trigger to say, nope, you don't pass our physical. You might pass theirs. Right. You might pass theirs. You might pass theirs. You don't pass ours. It's over. It's done. You get nothing. Good day, sir. And that may be their way out of this. Now, they could buy themselves a grievance like they did with Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown had a $9 million signing bonus. After they cut him, following one game, they said, we're not paying you anything. It went into the NFLPA grievance process and they settled it for $5 million. Maybe that's what happens. Maybe they stiff him and he's got to file the grievance, and at some point down the line it gets settled. But there's at least enough play in the contract where they could do that. And hey, are you all in to rehab your knee? Are you doing what's necessary to rehab your knee? That's how you lay the foundation to ultimately say, we can't pass you on a physical because you didn't properly rehab your knee.
Yeah. So there it is. I mean, so this all may be, I want to know what happens when he gets paid. Then let's see.
Let me ask this question. There's no indication that he doesn't want to be here, is there?
No.
Right? Okay. I didn't know if that was like,
listen, I think he wants to be here. I think, listen, he was out. He was hanging out with his boys. They were partying, whatever. Got caught on video. Somebody puts it out there. But I don't. That has nothing to do with him not wanting to be here. I just think he was chilling out in Miami. He's rehabbing his knee. He went on the boat with his boys. And, these girls, whoever, just taped it and.
They just happened to be there, and
but I don't think it has anything to do with him not wanting to be here, Joe. I just think,
Yeah. So listen, we'll see. No, I agree. He wants to be here. It's whether or not how much the team is going to put up with, and I don't think the contract's got to do with it. I don't think the knee has to do with it. It's the money. He's cheap. $12 million is cheap, especially with the way he looks in camp. And we're going to go to break and come back and talk about what they look like in these OTAs.
Yeah.
But that's what this is about. They're not cutting him. They're not releasing him because they need him and he's cheap, period. End of story. If they owed him $30 million, you could be sure as hell they would release him and say, hey, we were willing to pay. We were willing to pay, but this guy showed up with whatever the hell he had. It's not our fault.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll follow it all along and see what happens when they get into camp and if there's any other nonsense. But this Stefon Diggs stuff is still going, and it's going to continue to go. But this portion of Weekly Rewind was presented by the Pats Nation, Sundays, 8 a.m. Eastern. Hey, tomorrow we're going to talk more about this. We're going to talk some OTAs. We're going to talk linebackers. So make sure you stick around for that. But when we come back, going to continue a Weekly Rewind. No flipping.
Sundays are for football. And here in New England, that means it's the Pats Nation with Corso and Catone. Sundays, 8 to 9 a.m.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. I don't know how you guys drink this coffee. It's like I feel like I'm bouncing off the walls right now. What the hell?
Hey, forget it. I drink it every morning.
Wait,
Every morning.
Put some of that pink stuff in there.
What the hell?
No, this is a family show. We don't do that stuff, Okay, so continuing on, let's talk about the OTAs now. We'll talk about the offense, Mark, a little bit and some of the things you noticed. And then I want to hear from Alex Barth of 98.5 as to what his observations were. What'd you see?
A couple of quick things. So I think Drake Maye struggled a bit early, Chris, through those picks the second day of OTAs. Was it last week or the week before, right?
Yeah, the previous Tuesday,
Previous Tuesday, right? He struggled a little bit. Listen, they're throwing a lot at him. And I think McDaniels is trying to gauge, like you said, Chris, how much can he fill, right? The bottle with and see what can he consume and then, work from there. But as this is going on, Maye has seemed to get more comfortable. And these last couple of OTAs this week, Chris, he had pretty good days. He had some good days throwing the ball and he looked sharp and he looked good. So Maye, I think, is trending in the right direction. And anyone who thought, he's not going to be able to pick this offense, no, he's going to pick it up. Maye's going to be fine. I'm not worried about Maye.
Well, let's hear from Alex Bott of 98.5 on the offense in May. Joe.
Yesterday was their best day. Yesterday was their best day so far, especially on offense. Everything just looked there's more rhythm to it. There's more cohesion to it. You didn't have any moments, and there haven't been a ton, but there were some in the first two that we saw where it's like, all right, we got to make sure we have the formation right or the subs right in and out. Yesterday was seamless. Yesterday with Drake Maye in there, up and down the field, ball didn't hit the ground. They got a ton of plays in. Yesterday was the day you're really looking for when we talk about some of those more lofty win projections, over 500, getting into double digits. A lot of that banks on, is Drake Maye going to take this next step, or some of the other young guys on offense going to take this next step? And in theory, yesterday is kind of what you picture when you picture that next step.
Grade the quarterback so far.
Like C+, B minus, C+, somewhere in there. Like, look, he threw 4 picks in that first one. That's obviously not great. And even though he was turnover free in the second, I still thought his accuracy was kind of here and there.
So give him a C, Mark. But yeah, you throw 4 picks, you're going to get a C in the one practice. But he was 14 of 16 and 11. This is on the 2nd, June 2nd.
The important thing is, Chris, he showed progress as the OTAs went on, and that last one was had a good day. You know,
what I like is he's not over processing things.
No,
you know. He didn't appear to be, from what I understand, he didn't appear to be rushed. He seemed calm, ran the offense well. Like you say, much better than that first week or the first couple of days in there. He threw a wheel route to Stevenson, up the sideline. It was beautiful, beautiful pass. Stevenson made a great catch. Up the seam to Chisholm. Do you want to talk about him in a second too? Your guy, So, I mean, the one good thing about him, and you heard McDaniels, and I think we have it, but you heard McDaniels talk about making the same mistake twice. This is what they're looking at. Okay, you make a mistake, learn from that mistake, but are you going to come out and make the same mistake? Right? I mean, this is what we're looking for from him. It seems, like obvious, right? I mean, obviously, you don't want to make the same mistakes twice. That's clear, but a lot of guys do, and he's looked like he hasn't been doing that. So do you think he's living up to expectations right now for this stage, where he is with this offense?
For where he is in this offense, Chris, yeah. I mean, listen, I didn't expect him to come out there and look like the second coming of number 12. Obviously, that's not going to happen, right? I think for where he is with this stage of development, with this offense and learning this offense, he's coming from a different offense last year, Chris. So yeah, I mean, there's going to be growing pains. It's OTAs. It's early. This is when you want to see those growing pains. He'll consume it. He'll digest it. When OTAs end, Chris, he'll take that playbook and he'll soak it. He'll soak it in. He'll watch. They got the AR, the artificial intelligence type of headsets they put on. He'll keep working with that, I'm sure, in between. I think he'll be okay, Chris. I really do. I mean, you were talking about that throw to Stevenson on the wheel route. Those are some of his best balls, Chris. Those balls up the sidelines, those, like, whether they're wheel routes, whether they're to the wide receivers up the sideline, over the shoulder throws. Those are some of his best throws, Chris. He has some good touch on those deep throws up the sideline. We saw that last year, the couple of throws he threw the boot tag, right? Yeah. On those types of routes for the receivers. So I think he's going to be fine, Chris. I'm not necessarily worried about Drake Maye. I don't know about you. I'm not.
Where I want to see improvement is the intermediate. Yeah. Yes, throwing down the field, he's great. The short passes, the 0 to 10, he looks pretty good. He looks pretty good on the run. What I haven't seen and I need to see is the 20-yard in cut, the 20-yard out route.
And that's part of the bread and butter, Chris. And that's part of the bread and butter of a McDaniels offense, is what you just described. Those 3 routes are infused into that offense, and it's a big part of that offense.
Right. And when you make it even a little more complicated and you're throwing a 10 to 15 yard, you call it a comeback, but your back shoulder throw, even more difficult. even more precise it has to be, because that's what, if you're gonna have Diggs, and by the way, Diggs looked pretty damn good out there. I mean, obviously he wasn't running in 11s, but
No, he wasn't.
he doesn't look like a guy that had ACL 7 months ago either.
No, he doesn't. He absolutely doesn't.
So we'll see what happens. And so that's Drake Maye. Now, I want to get to the wide receiver room about what we saw out there. You want to just go to Chisholm? I mean, you know, because I know you're foaming at the mouth about this.
So Efton Chisholm, Chris, is the undrafted rookie free agent out of Eastern Washington.
The third.
Efton Chisholm, the third. Yeah. For those of you who don't know who he is, I had him circled on my board at the draft, late 6th round, 7th round. I had said, you know what, I would take a flyer on him in the 7th round. Chris and I had talked about it. And lo and behold, he goes undrafted, and we had to compete against some other teams to get him. And the reason I liked him, I said, listen, if he's there in the 7th round, Chris, take him, was for what he's been showing in camp. I thought he'd be a perfect fit for McDaniels' offense. The other day, Chris, he caught passes for Maye, from all three quarterbacks. That OTA, that last session that they were talking about how well Maye did, Chisholm caught 7 passes that day, Chris. All different types of passes. Caught a dig route in the middle of the field. He has, Chris, that burst that McDaniels likes in a slot guy, Chris. What McDaniels is looking for out of a slot receiver, Chris, an Amendola, maybe people are saying he reminds them of. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. People are saying he reminds them of Amendola. Yeah. Okay, which he can do a few different things for you. I see that, but I'm going to be honest with you, Chris. Based on what I watched leading into the draft, that's why I said I would take a flyer on him in the 7th round. I see more Edelman in him than Amendola, but of course I wasn't at OTAs, so I'd like to see it. I got to see more of them. But either way, Chris, if those are the comparisons people are making, Amendola, Edelman, he's primed to make this roster. And I know you want to talk about some of the things you like about him. You said that we don't have many receivers on this team that can do what you've seen him do or have heard him do in OTAs. Why don't you explain that?
And I think right now the comp too is the level comp right now is Braxton Berrios. We hope it goes higher. We hope it gets to the Amendola.
I think he'll be better than Berrios, Chris.
I've seen McCaffrey out there, him being compared to McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey and Fran.
Well, I think that's more the running back. Laz, what's his name, Chris? The last name is
Larison.
I think it's him. I've heard the McCaffrey comparisons. Joe, you're right. You're absolutely right. But Chris, tell us about Chisholm. What you like.
Well, before I get to that, let's hear what Alex Barth of 98.5 had to say when he was talking about looking at the wide receivers. Joe.
Day depth chart at receiver. Well, Diggs looks like a guy who can be ready for week 1. Let's start there. I would not be surprised. I don't think he's 100% yet. Doesn't need to be 100% yet, but that was an encouraging day yesterday for him. So he's going to be there. Pop Douglas is going to be there. XC slot. Okay, I think Kyle Williams ideally is their starting X. Okay. I think they like him as an X. You drafted the guy high, like top 100 pick. He should be out there in that role, and there's not a lot of competition there either.
He's the X. Douglas is the slot, obviously.
And then Diggs at the Z. I think that's their 11 personnel, ideally. And then just rounding out the roster, Mac Hollins, you feel like is going to be here. They paid him. He has that leadership tangent. He plays special teams. They need size. It's a small room, and he's a big guy, so he'll be here. Yep. And I think Kendrick Bourne's going to be here. Josh McDaniels has a good working relationship with him. He's now 2 years removed from that knee injury. He showed good chemistry with Drake Maye last year, and then it's a matter of if they carry a 6. To me, it's going to be the 2 guys that make the most sense are Kayshon Boutte, and then if he continues, huge if he continues.
There it is.
Efton Chisholm.
Okay, so because I wanted to play that so that you can give me your list, because I knew when you heard Bourne you were going to, but I want to tell you about Chisholm.
But I don't know what Bot is talking about 5. You're going to carry more than 5 receivers. They've never not carried 6.
Well, I mean, but you always had Slater as the.
No, Chris, I think they've carried 6, and Slater sometimes was the 7th, but he was considered special teams.
Yeah. Well,
So I don't know what he's talking about.
We'll talk 6, but to
Yeah.
finish on Chisholm, to answer your question, what I love about this kid is what I like about Nakua and what I like about Ladd McConkey and some of these guys that are precise route runners. The way this kid gets separation at the top of his routes. So when you say stem a route, when he's running in a line and he gets in on his route, and when he gets to the top of it where he's going to make a move, either come back, go out, go in, whatever he's going to do, whatever cut he's going to make at the top of the route, he's getting separation against everybody in practice, no matter who it is. 1s, 2s, 3s, doesn't make a difference. And Drake May's getting him the ball. He's catching passes from Maye. The only question I have is, can he do it with contact? So when we say shorts and T-shirts, Mark and I always talk about, well, this is shorts and T-shirts. Everybody says, well, what do you mean by that? What do you mean is at the top of those routes, you're going to get contact from the corner, defensive back, whoever it is, right?
Yeah.
Can you get that separation when contact is being made on you? And if he can, he's making this team. Because there's not a guy, I know he runs a 4.7, I get it, but when you put him in a phone booth, he's fast as hell.
And
so
Chris, in college, the reason I made the Edelman comparison, if you watch some of the routes he ran in college, guys banged him off the line. He was like a pinball, Chris.
Yeah.
He'd bounce off guys and keep going, So
Yeah.
I think people are going to be very surprised by this kid once they put the pads on. And did you notice the two people Both didn't even mention, which means they showed nothing in OTAs so far. So far is Baker and Polk. He don't even mention them.
Well, Polk's not running on the 11s, just I think because he's recovering from something. But he's dropped a lot of balls, like you heard. He's dropped a lot of balls just in indies, just in individual drills. And so again, the Chisholm, I like Chisholm. And by the way, when he's running his option routes, he's choosing right. He's picking the right option. He's picking the right route, and they're getting him the ball. So
and that option route, Chris, is a big part of McDaniels' offense.
Big.
So if you're a receiver that can do that, you already got a leg up. And the other thing, last thing I'll say, Chris, I know we're running against the clock, is if the kid has a good camp, if he continues what he's doing in OTAs and has a good camp, and okay, you're only keeping 5-6 receivers, whatever you're doing, a guy like him probably won't survive the practice squad.
Nope.
He won't survive to the practice squad. So you're going to have to hope he can play some special teams. If he can play special teams, then maybe he's that extra receiver you're keeping because he can give you some time in the slot. Because let's face it, Pop Douglas is because of his size, Chris, is bound to get hurt if everyone says, oh, he's the slot guy. And I know we're running out of time, but I do want to address this next week, Chris, is you and I seriously question whether the rookie Williams is an X based on what we saw in college. I get what he's saying. Oh, he's their X. He's got no competition. That's where they're going to play him. But is he really an X, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, and Joe, can we go a little longer on this? Can we take a little bit from baseball, or are you guys okay with that, or what do you want?
I'm okay with that.
Hey.
You always want to take from baseball on me. Go ahead. He'll talk football for 4 days, this guy.
We already took Catone's comments away, so we went.
Oh, I wasn't even addressing that, Joe. I wasn't even addressing the fact he took Catone's comment out and didn't even tell our viewers. Didn't tell anybody.
Well, let's just
Talk
do
about Williams.
a
Talk
quick
about Williams.
tutorial, just fast. Okay,
Go ahead.
X receiver, outside guy, right? On his own, outside, spread out. The Z receiver, because they talk X, Z, F, Y. Nobody knows what the hell we're talking about, right? Okay. The Z receiver usually lines up opposite the X, the other side of the field, usually with the Y, which is the tight end. Typically,
So that would be Diggs?
The Z receiver's Diggs. He's on the other side of the X, okay, opposite. Sometimes they call him an F, but F is usually a back. So we won't call it an F, just a slot receiver. The slot receiver now is going to be inside even that. So, you'll have the Z on one side and you'll have the slot guy 1 yard off either on that side or on the same side as the X. So when you're breaking these guys down, you're saying, well, who's who? So the X room has got to be Williams, Booty, and Baker, in my opinion. Those are the 3 possibilities. Bourne could do it, but, And then you got the Z receiver opposite side is Diggs, Bourne, Hollins, Polk, right? And then the slot guys, Douglas and Chisholm. So Chisholm's going to be fighting with Douglas for the slot. So do I think Williams is an X? I haven't seen Yeah, I get it. He gets open. He's flying by people and he's using his feet to do it. There's no hand checking. There's no hand fighting. There's no contact. Have you seen him use his hands and arms to get free, like in college at all?
All the videos we watched in college, Chris, I didn't see it. If anything, Chris, they lined him up and got him in motion and put him, guys were giving him space off the line. I didn't see it. All the video that they kept playing pre-draft didn't show that he was a true X to me.
Yeah. So until I see him with some contact, I'm not ready to say, oh, he looked great. He's looked good so far. I want to see the contact because I haven't seen him in college be able to use his hands to get separation off the line. I haven't seen it. So we'll have to see that. And tomorrow, make sure you're tuning in to the Pats Nation so that we can elaborate more on the wide receiver
Chris,
room. And I promise we will.
Interesting. You're talking about hands. Just real quick. There's a video on social media yesterday of Diggs, Todd Dowling, wide receivers coaches working with Diggs, and I believe it's Polk. And Diggs is doing like a motion like he's going downfield, and he's got Polk with his arm on him, reaching out to, holding on to him. And Diggs is going like this, and in a hand motion, like he's running, swipes him and spins to turn and catch the ball. And it was like Dowling was having him show Polk,
right,
this is how you do this.
Right.
Because Polk didn't know what he was doing. So
Polk sucks.
So I think Dowling was having Diggs demonstrate, here's how you come back for the ball and push away from coverage.
Right.
But that's something no one's talking about, Chris. I think Diggs is going to be good for some of these young guys. I think like a Chisholm, maybe like a Douglas, maybe this young kid Williams, because I think they can use him to show these guys, this is how you do this in the NFL, guys. This isn't college anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk a lot more about it tomorrow on the Pats Nation, but Weekly Rewind was presented by Corso Law Group, corsolawgroup.com. We come back. Now we'll talk baseball. We come back, Mark. I promise. Yankees and Red Sox.
Oh, yeah. No one ever thinks they will be in need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Their 20-plus years experience and attention to detail has helped thousands of people who found themselves in a situation in Arizona. Whether it's a traffic ticket or more serious issue, talk with these expert attorneys. CorsoLawGroup.com.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England feel. All right, we got to get to it. Yankees versus Red Sox, Joe. Okay, Mark, so let's talk Yankees first a little bit. They were looking great. They were 15 games over 500. They were rolling. Go through the Angels, no issues, right? Now they show up in L.A. to play the Dodgers. Was this a reality check?
Positively, Chris. The American League, we've been saying it all year, is the weaker right now. Is the weaker of the two leagues. There's a couple of good teams. Detroit's very good, and there's some good teams in the American League.
And the Yankees are good. They're a good team too.
Yankees are a good team. But now you go out west. And everyone says, yeah, well, the Yankees got some injuries. Well, so do the Dodgers. Two of the Dodgers' top 5 starting pitchers, actually 3. Otani's not pitching either. So 3 guys who will be starters in their rotation, Chris, are not pitching. Okay? So, and they got like 2 of their best arms out of the bullpen are not playing right now for the Dodgers. Mookie Betts tweaked something, doesn't play in the last couple of games of that series. He's out. Yet they gave it to us pretty good in those first 2 games. We blew the first game. Second game they kicked our behind. Was it 18-2? Something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
it was ugly. It was ugly. Yeah, it was ugly. So yeah, I think it was a reality check that hey, we're good. We're a good team, but are we a World Series team? Well, no, not yet. We need some pieces, Chris, to become a World Series team. Because a team that gets out of the National League, if it's not the Dodgers, then it's going to have to be somebody real good to beat that Dodgers team.
Yeah, I'll be shocked if it's not the Dodgers.
I'll be shocked. If the Dodgers get healthy with their pitching staff the second half of the year, I'll be shocked if it's not the Dodgers. Shocked.
So the Yankees are not good enough to overcome stupidity, right? Managerial stupidity. What should we call it that?
Sure.
What am I talking about?
So Sunday night, the game was it a 5-1 game? 5-1, right? I think it was 5-1.
Well, they scored 3. So, yeah, it turned out to be, what, a 7-3 game? You're talking about the score?
The score was 5-1 at the time.
The third game in that set?
Third game in the set.
Yeah, because they were up 6-1, remember? And then it became 6-3, and then they got the extra run, maybe 8.
Yarborough for the Yankees had thrown like 92 pitches, 93 pitches after 6. And I said,
I thought it was like right at 90.
May have been right at 90, maybe a pitch or two above 90, right around there, though. And Chris says, "Oh, they got to bring him back. They got to, you can't go to the bullpen. We wasted a lot of arms yesterday.
We're of course on the phone discussing this while the game's going on.
Chris is like, they got to bring him back. I'm like, Chris, he's done. He's looking at the number.
He's not coming back in, and I already started yelling when he started saying that.
I said he's not coming back. I said he's looking at. I said Boone's going to look at the numbers, analytics. Nope, time to make the move. And Chris is like, Ma, it's too early. They make the move. And now all of a sudden they get a couple of runs.
Well, what did I say was going to happen? I said, watch what's going to happen now. I said they're going to pull this guy, and you know it's going to happen. Who'd they print? Lovato?
They brought in Jonathan Loizaga.
And so I'm like, watch, Mark. This game's going to be. This is what's going to happen. Is going to be 6-3, and it's in the 7th inning, which is a lot different than it being 6-3 in the 8th inning. Okay, yeah. I said, and now it's a ball game, and now here we are. Right, when he could have left this kid in to at least pitch 2 batters, right?
Yep, he definitely could have got
especially since the first out was like a 3-pitch.
Yeah, it was
like 3-4 pitch out.
Yeah, they should have brought him back. Absolutely, they should have.
And what happened? So they hit 2 bombs.
The guys hit 2 bombs. Right? Make the game 6-3, and then in the 8th, what does he do? He brings in the crazy man, Devin Williams, who's all over the place, right? And now you're like, okay, they're blowing this game. They're not going to win this game. But he actually had a good outing, and it turns out you win the game. However, Chris and I took issue with, what are you doing? Like, you're going to read the situation and manage based on what you're seeing, not based on what's on the iPad and what the robots upstairs are telling you, the nerds. Like, you had the feel for the game. This kid's cruising, not throwing hard. He hasn't been taxed. Let him keep rolling. He's fine. And he would have given you another 10 pitches, probably maybe another 2 outs. Let him go. Like, they're lucky, Chris, that didn't cost them. They give up the 2 bombs to make it 6-3. Thankfully, Devin Williams has a good outing, because if he gives up a run or 2, which he typically does, now all of a sudden you're in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just that, Mark. It's the general situation where you are in the season. Like, you go on the West Coast, you're playing the Dodgers now. You lose the first 2 games, right? You're in a real bad spot if you come home being swept by the Dodgers. You're in a real bad situation if that happens, right? So you got to win that game. You can't get on a plane having been swept by the Dodgers. Not only that, this kid Williams is coming onto the mound now. He overcame it, but he's had problems upstairs getting through this stuff. And now you're going to bring him in against the damn friggin' Dodgers in the 7th inning. Bring him in the 8th inning then,
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what happened. And it was switching over to the Red Sox now, because I know we're running out of time. So we'll see what happens with the Yankees. I mean, they're not good enough to overcome that stuff every night, Mark. So
no.
Talking about the Red Sox, okay? And so the drama just continues with this team and Alex Cora. And now everybody's calling it to question Cora's future, and how he went to Devers, and how he, how Cora wouldn't ask Devers to play first base, and it was Breslow who had to do it, and it's just a mess right now in Boston. And we heard from Breslow this week, Joe.
Speculation in different places about Alex and his performance, things like that. Would you say that no matter what, he'll be your manager through this season?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of confidence in Alex's ability to lead this group.
and that doesn't mean that we don't have conversations every day about what we might be missing or what more we can do. But we obviously made a commitment to Alex. We're going to see that through. And right now it's about making sure that we're doing everything we can to enable the 26 guys on our roster to help us win as many games as possible.
Yeah. Okay. So that's Breslow. Mark will be back on in a second. That's Breslow talking about Cora. They're saying he's got his back, but basically we're looking at everything. We're looking at everything, right? And Mark, I don't know if you heard that cut, but I know you're having a little issue with your camera. But so then he goes on to say about the team. That was about Cora. Now he talks about the simple answer is we're not good enough. It's not the performance we expected in the offseason. I think we could point to a number of things. We haven't really been able to sync up the offense and defense. We've been sloppy in the field at times, Mark. They've been sloppy in the field. We've run into mistakes on the bases. We're going to have to play clean baseball. We're going to have to start getting big hits and making big pitches if we want to rattle off wins that we need. It's too late in the season, and I think the evidence is strong to suggest that we're not going to be okay tomorrow when we wake up. So that's Breslow talking about the team, okay? And so my whole thing with this, okay, is it goes back to the leadership of this entire team, okay? That's what it is. It continues with the leadership, and it to me it goes on. It's squarely on Cora, because he just seems disengaged, Mark, and I just can't reconcile. I just can't figure out what the hell his problem is and why he's not just taking more charge of anything. Okay. And so, and I know that we're going to hear from Cora too on the state of the team, but, and we'll bring Mark back in. I know everybody can see him, but I don't think Mark can hear us. I think that's the issue. So we'll get to that. But the bottom line is Cora's he's not handling this team well. He's not being the leader he needs to be. And especially with that Devers thing. Okay. This is the other thing that pissed me off, Joe, is when first base came open and Cassis got hurt. Everybody said, well, why can't Devers play there? Well, we're not going to go to Devers. Cora said, we're not talking to him about first base. I'm not talking to him and so on. And so Breslow went out and talked to Devers about the general manager, about playing first base, right? So it was Breslow that went out there, talked to him, and not Cora. And I'm trying to figure out which side is Cora on. Is he supporting the player? Is he supporting the management? And I'm not sure what he's doing. But we heard from Cora. So, Mark, the question that I have is this. Breslow went to talk to Cora, Devers, as I'm saying. Cora didn't do it. I'm talking about, well, whose side is Cora on here? Is he on management side? Is he on the player side? Why wouldn't he go talk to Devers? What is happening?
Well, Chris, I think he's on the player's side. I think that he's a player's manager. I think that's what has made him successful. And I think that's what he was back in 2018, Chris. That's why they won. He had a veteran team. He was a player's guy. He got guys that wanted to play for him. They basically could regulate themselves and manage themselves. And that's why they won back then. And he hasn't been able to duplicate that. Yeah, a few years back they made the playoffs, but so I think he told Breslow, listen, I already dealt with the third base issue. You want to talk to him about first base, you go do it. I'm not doing it. You know what I mean? I definitely think,
And it's just all this whole season has just been CYA all over the place. I mean, then they come out then they come out and say, all right, well, it was really the plan all along. I mean, courtesy of Mass Live, they're talking about initially it was Breslow, not Cora, who approached Devers, like we said, about moving to first base, which led to those questions. Then they say, trying to be sensitive and respectful of conversations that went into moving him off third base. Initially, Breslow explained, we recognize that there's a balance between needing to do what we need to do that's best for the team, trying to provide stability, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Then they're talking One industry source recently offered that the strategy was deliberate, with the Red Sox purposefully having Breslow, not Cora, approach Devers about playing first base, responded unfavorably to the request, as he quickly did, so on and so forth. Mark, that was the original plan. It wasn't going to be Cora. It was going to be Breslow. Why did the owner have to fly there then?
Yeah, that's a crock of BS, Chris. A crock of BS. Listen, this place is a dysfunctional mess. I think, Cora signs the extension. You can bet your ass if this was year 3, if this was the last year of his contract, he wouldn't be staying here. He's kicking himself, I think, that he stayed here. I just don't think he quite realized this is, listen, Chris, so during the offseason, management goes out and gets you a number 1 starter in Crochet. They go and get you a third baseman who technically, Chris, early in the season before the injuries, putting up numbers that have him, he's an all-star. I'm not going to say he's putting up MVP numbers because of Judge, but he's a bona fide all-star and one of the top players in the league in Bregman. They go and get you Chapman, who turns into, Chris, he drank from the fountain of youth. He's one of the top closers in the American League. So, shouldn't you be doing better? Like, you know what I mean? So Cora is this is solely on Cora. This whole thing is about Cora. It's on Cora. He's digging his feet in the ground and he wants to, butt heads with Breslow
I don't think he wants to. I don't think he wants to be there, Mark. I mean, look at this list. Crochet's 82 innings pitched. 82 innings pitched first. Okay, strikeouts 101, tied for first. ERA 1.98, tied for 7th in MLB. But they're only 7-6 in his starts. So and he's just and he's starting to feel it, because this is what Cora had to say, Joe.
I mean, we keep making the same mistakes. We're not getting better. At one point, it has to be on me, I guess, right? I'm the manager, so I got to keep pushing them to be better. They're not getting better. They're not. We keep making the same mistakes. I'll be very honest about it, very open about it. Is it effort, preparation, like Duke said, attention to detail? I have no idea. I watched that game. I was like, wow, this is real. I mean, it's frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, listen to this guy. They're not getting better. Flat out, they're not getting better, he says. What the hell kind of... I've never heard a major league, any coach just talk this way, as to we're not just not getting better. They're not getting better, and it's frustrating, and, I can't explain it.
Chris, well, listen, and then at one point he says,
go ahead.
At one point he says, well, I guess you're going to blame me. I guess you can put it on me, I guess. What do you mean you guess? Well, I'm the manager. What are you talking about, Chris? Yeah. What is he talking about? I mean, of course.
I don't know. They're a hot mess.
Everything he described, Chris, is on him. Like, this is a disgrace.
Yeah, they're a hot mess, and they're going to continue to be a hot mess. And so we'll keep following it. And but the Yankees, listen, I'm liking the way the Yankees are. They got to clean up a few things. They're doing a lot with less right now with the injuries. The Red Sox, boy, they're going into the toilet, and they're going fast. So we'll pay attention to that. But Yankees versus Red Sox was presented by the Pats Nation, Sundays, 8 a.m. Eastern. Hey, we got loads of OTA talk. We got linebacker talk. So make sure you're sticking around every Sunday to that. But when we come back, going to go B's and C's. Want to talk Celtics and a potential trade? Stick around.
Sundays are for football. And here in New England, that means it's the Pats Nation with Corso and Catone. Sundays, 8 to 9 a.m.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. Okay, so, Mark, I know you're having some audio issues, some video issues. We appreciate you pushing
It's a nightmare. Listen, this is a nightmare. Total nightmare.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit of Celtics before we go. We'll do it in B's and C's. Joe?
Hit it! The Celtics are the world champions, and they have shown the world how great a ball club they really are.
Okay, so I want to talk potential trade. We only got about 6 minutes, and with the Celtics. The only thing I'll say about the Bruins is still looking for a coach. I think they're just trying to find the cheapest way out of this thing. And, still looking at Jay Leach, still looking at Marco Sturm, Jay Woodcroft, and Mitch Love. But I think he's going to end up at Pittsburgh. I don't know. But we'll pay attention to that. We'll bring it to you when it happens.
That eventually will work itself out, Chris. I don't think anybody even cares what the Bruins are doing at this point.
Yeah. So now with the Celtics, okay, want to talk. I've been hearing all week talking Brown, Giannis. Is there a potential trade? You talked about this a little bit last week. What do you think about this idea?
I make the deal, Chris. I make the deal. If it's Giannis, I make the deal, and I think you try to pull off Porzingis in the process of the deal, right? I don't know how many teams would be involved, but you try pulling him off, right, in the deal. Yeah. But you brought, and we both agree that we have some reservations about Giannis, but we definitely would take him because we think he's an upgrade over Brown. However, you brought up an interesting point, Chris. You said if Tatum was healthy and you could pull this deal off, do it. But the fact that Tatum's going to be out for the year, and it could technically be like Giannis' team for a year, you got reservations. Explain. What are your reservations with that?
Here's the problem. The biggest problem that I have with having Giannis on this team is his attitude, not his play. I mean, he's a better player than Brown. Now, he's not a better defensive player, but he's a better all-around player than Brown. So, but the big issue that I have is he's a ball hog. He's going to want the ball. He wants the ball in his hands. And if Tatum were not going to miss the year, and a lot of people talking about Tatum's going to be back in March. I don't buy that. So Giannis is going to be by himself on this team for the whole season without Tatum, which means this becomes Giannis's team for an entire season. Now, what the hell does that look like mentally when Tatum walks back through the door again and Giannis is going to relinquish those reins, especially if the Celtics do anything, if they go anywhere, if they get anywhere in the playoffs, if something, and now all of a sudden here comes Tatum, and now what? Because Giannis is a cuckoo clock that way. He wants it to be his show. And that's my major concern. But Mark, he's a better player than Brown. He's more durable than Brown. He's played in more games. He's a top 3 player in the league.
Yeah, he definitely is. Definitely is.
So to me, it's a huge risk. I mean, if you get some guarantees out of Giannis that he understands who this team really belongs to, who the superstar on this team is. But I haven't seen Giannis be able to mesh with another star yet. Have you?
No. And who knows, Chris, if it's even true that Milwaukee's shopping him around. I mean, that could just be a rumor. They could be looking for like a real sucker deal. And if they really suck somebody in and get all kind of stuff in return, maybe they'll do it. But I don't necessarily know if they're really serious about doing it. But then, Chris, there's other things. It's not just Giannis. Like, supposedly the Celtics are interested in a 7-foot young guy from Charlotte, this Mark Williams, who put up decent stats last year, averaged about 14, 15 points a game. So there's other guys around the league, Chris. Supposedly they're looking at maybe if they can shift around some salary, maybe he might have one last gas in him, maybe a DeMar DeRozan. They've talked about some other guys. They've talked about, Porzingis to the Lakers, and you get Dalton Connect, and maybe, a couple of draft picks, and maybe a bench guy. And then the rumor is Kevin Durant's going to be dealt before the draft. Are you interested in Kevin Durant? I don't know, right? So there's a lot out there.
We'll see. We'll definitely see, but we got to go. Hey, they'll force them to play different. That's for sure. They'll definitely force them to play different. But Corso and Catone was presented by the Pats Nation, Sundays, 8 a.m. Eastern. Hey, tune in every Sunday. We got a lot of Patriots talk, OTAs, position group breakdowns. So make sure you're tuning in and come back next weekend, noon Eastern, to this show. We'll see if the Bruins have a coach yet. We'll talk more Patriots, Yankees, Sox, Catone's comments. We'll make sure we're bringing that back next week. Anything you bring to the table, we will be ready. We are Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England feel. See you next Saturday.
Now find Corso and Catone on AM 790, The Score, iHeartRadio, iTunes, wherever you podcast. Or subscribe to the YouTube channel and catch the chaos every Saturday at noon.